Hi everyone and welcome to the tutorial. Today I will be demonstrating how to work an Icord bind off. This is a really nice, neat and easy way to bind off a piece of knitting, and it will give you the appearance of an Icord travelling along your bind off edge. This is a great technique to use if your piece of knitting also has an Icord edge along the other sides. It doesn't need to be exclusively used in this case, you can use it whenever you like, but it'll look particularly nice and neat if that's the case. An Icord is essentially a small tube of knitting. It has this kind of appearance of rolled stockinette and has a really smooth edge. Generally, when you want to make an Icord, you'll have a small number of stitches and you constantly knit across them, then slide them to the other end of your needle and then knit across them again. So you're always working the right side of the work and pulling the yarn tightly across the back, which creates an enclosed tube. To do this bind off, we're essentially going to be doing the same thing, but at the same time we're going to decrease and therefore bind off each of the live stitches of our knitting at the same time. To work a piece of knitting with an Icord edge, all I've done is slipped the last 3 stitches of each row purlwise, and then when I've turned my knitting around to work across them the other direction, I've knit or purled them as they face me. So once again, you don't have to do this, but it will have a really nice effect, as we will see as we get into the demonstration. So your written instructions for this technique will generally be quite easy and straightforward. Mine say to knit 2, then to knit 2 stitches together through the back loop, then to slip the 3 stitches on the right hand needle back to the left hand needle, and continue to repeat those steps. So the first thing I do is knit 2, and I do that exactly as I would normally knit 2 stitches. So yarn at the back, insert my right hand needle, wrap yarn around, slide the stitch from the left hand needle, that's one, and we'll knit the second one like so. The next thing I'm going to do is to knit 2 together through the back loop. So if this yarn that's facing me here now is the front loop of each stitch, then if I were to flip it around, this would be the back loop here. So to knit 2 together through the back loop, I'm going to insert my needle into this part of the stitch. Got my right hand needle here, so that's inserted through 1 stitch. I want to insert it through 2 stitches, just like so. And if I flip my work around, you'll see the position that your needle should be in. So it's through 2 stitches like that. We then wrap the working yarn around our right hand needle and finish the knit stitch just as we would normally. So we draw the loop through both stitches, and now that they've been worked, we slip them from the left hand needle. And that's a knit 2 together. The last thing I'm going to do is slip those 3 stitches back to the left hand needle, like so. And then we repeat. Knit 2. So I'm working the stitches I've already worked again. Then knit 2 together through the back loop. So insert into the back loop of 2 stitches, wrap the yarn around and draw the yarn through like so, and then slip those 3 stitches back to the left hand needle. What you'll hopefully start to see is that because we're always working into one side of our stitches, we have a really neat look of stockinette. Because we're constantly working the first 2 stitches again, we start to get a tube forming, and then the knit 2 together through the back loop gives us the appearance of a stockinette stitch as well, but we're slowly starting to bind off our live stitches here and here. So we're just going to keep doing that. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, slip 3 stitches back to the left hand needle, knit 2, knit 2 together, so the last I-cord stitch and the next live stitch of the body, then together, and then slip those stitches back to the left hand needle, knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, and then slip those 3 stitches back to the left hand needle. You might notice that as I slip the stitches, I insert my left hand needle into the back loop and then slide them off the right hand needle, and that ensures that I'm not twisting the stitches in any way when I slip them, which will give me that really neat stockinette effect. So we're just going to keep repeating those steps. If I were working this technique on a piece of knitting that didn't have an I-cord edge, I could just keep repeating that until I have bound off every single stitch, and then I would just turn around and bind off the stitches of the I-cord by passing each stitch over the top. Because I've done this piece of knitting with an I-cord edge, I'm going to work my bind off until I get to the last 3 stitches, which, as you'll see, have made an I-cord. And then I'm going to stop and show you how to graft those stitches together for a really neat effect. Okay, so I've just finished binding off all of my stitches apart from the last 3 which make up this I-cord edging. So you'll see there what a neat effect it has. It's really neat and smooth, and I've bound off or cast off all of the live stitches. So this might be as far as my pattern asks me to go. It might just then say to bind off these I-cord stitches, but because I've worked this I-cord edging, I'm actually going to graft these 2 sets of 3 I-cord stitches together so that I end up with a corner which is just as neat and seamless as the one from where I started my I-cord. So what I've done is I've cut my working yarn, which was attached to this first stitch here, which was my knit 2 together through the back loop, and I've threaded it with my tapestry needle. What I'm then going to do is flip around this bind off I-cord stitch needle so that it points to the right, just like what was my left hand needle, so that now the cut yarn is attached to the first stitch on the back needle, and I have both I-cords with the right sides, the smooth stockinette sides, facing out. So hopefully you can see what's going on there. And now I'm going to use Kitchener stitch to graft these 2 sets of stitches together. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I do have a technique tutorial video on how to work Kitchener stitch if you'd like a more in-depth explanation on how this works. So please feel free to check that out as a bit more of in-depth information if you need it. But otherwise, just quickly, the first thing I do is insert my tapestry needle purlwise through the front needle, and then knitwise into the first stitch on the back needle, without slipping anything from either needle yet. Then we're going to insert knitwise again into the first stitch and slip it from the needle, then insert purlwise into the next stitch without slipping from the needle, insert purlwise into the back stitch and slip it from the needle, insert knitwise into the next stitch, don't slip it from the needle. Once again, insert knitwise into first stitch, slip it from the needle, insert purlwise into next stitch, don't slip from the needle. Then on the back needle, insert purlwise into next stitch and slip it from the needle. Insert knitwise into next stitch, don't slip from the needle. And then to finish off these last 2 stitches, insert knitwise and slip from the needle, and then insert purlwise and slip from the needle. And there I've grafted my stitches together. I'll just need to readjust the tension because I've pulled that yarn a bit too tight, so I just use my tapestry needle to quickly readjust that. But otherwise, that is the Icord bind off. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.